Hey, welcome to NDI November 2025. I'm Glen Seaman. I'm the head of sales engineering over at Broadfield, and today we are joined by Laurent from Netgear. If anybody knows me, you know how much I love Netgear, how much I love the Pro AV switches. Reason I love it is our number one problem solver. I ship so many out just to make problems go away, and they don't come back. And I think that's the thing that I love. And yeah, I'm gonna let Laurent go into why Netgear for anything dealing with AV over IP is hands down the best solution to go with, why they are so far ahead of everybody else in the industry, and again, why they're my favorite problem solver. So I'm gonna let you take it away, Laurent. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
All right, Glenn, thank you very much, and thank you for having me and having Netgear AV. So I'm Laurent. I'm running the product management Netgear for Netgear AV for a long time, and I'm very happy to take you through that. So my initial introduction, Glenn, is that first you can interrupt me when you want. I'm French and I'm used to it, and I'm talking from Paris right now. Second, I just want to spend 10 minutes on the slides because what matters really today, you and I are going to configure a 200 port network for NDI, but we are going to also do the comms and the lighting and the ArtNet and the SSEN with it, and we are going to do it in less than 10 minutes too. All right. So if you're accepting that challenge, let's go.
I'm
And
not accepting the challenge. You're doing it, so the challenge is on you. But yes, and I think that's a huge point too. Is the reality is, and this is why again Netgear is so great. Is you know it started with one AV over IP device on a network, and then suddenly there's another device, and there's another device, and you just hit it. You're doing video, you're doing lighting, you're doing audio. There's more and more things flooding into your AV over IP network, and again, you're going to go over why Netgear is the choice.
Yeah, thank you.
So
But I want to share the pain a little bit with you. So that's why you're going to help me. Let's go. So, yeah, we started 15 years ago in Netgear, and now you see we have some kind of a business unit with Netgear AV in the Netgear Enterprise segment of our organization. And what we did over the years is that we stayed hungry for knowledge, but we wanted to adapt our IT switches for AV and not the other way around. So that's why we helped co-found some of those alliances, and the rest of the time we became a member with the chair at those alliances to understand the pain points and try to adapt our AV switchers so that we can do a good job instead of trying to convince all these great AV companies to change their products. And it worked. So 15 years later, my slide is not even, up to date anymore. I don't have enough space. We just have more than 500 certifications right now published on netgear.com/AV. So this is how we spent our whole time in 15 years. One by one, you can see the entire NDI ecosystem in there. One by one, we offer a certification process to those companies, taking the equipment in, even if they are bulky and big, And also, of course, we are lending the Netgear AV switches, and until we can break everything out and get the perfect configuration and get eliminating all the bugs, that you can find, then we go live and we publish the certification. The Netgear Pro AV design team is trained, and we can offer the technical support to the customers, to the channel of those manufacturers. And this is how we got there. So the transition to AV over IP was really difficult 15, 20 years ago, if you remember. But by now, we can say that it's actually getting easier, and Netgear AV probably participated to that. And there's no exception for AV over IP from broadcast and live events. This is where NDI shines very well, very often by now, but also in the enterprise, also in the medical AV, residential AV, education. There's no exception. AV over IP is everywhere, and AV over IP requires a good AV fabric. So now I can accelerate because I am going to demo all that. Our take, because again, we started 20 years ago with CLI and IGMP and QoS, and it was hard. So we totally reinvented the software. We now have an operating system that is called the NETGEAR AV OS with the AV user interface, with an Engage controller that spans across the entire AV network. And this way we could simplify AV over IP with a lot of automation. So NETGEAR AV, this is a good set of hardware switchers. I'm going to demo the software with you. And don't forget the service and the support, because without, you can do everything you want with good hardware and software. A lot of installations require support. So the NETGEAR Pro AV design team is here to the rescue. This is the switch portfolio now, and I won't spend time here. I think everybody knows by now that the M4250s at NETGEAR are pretty good for the AV racks. The ports are in the back. We can reverse the switches the way you want though, but they look good in AV installations. But this is really good for audio and for compressed video. So NDI is good too. Of course, we have the 10G uplinks in between the switches. But when you have a more sizable installation with potentially hundreds, if not thousands of endpoints, then you are reaching the limits, with only 4250s. That's why we have more enterprise class platforms with M4350s, the latest generation that starts at 1G and go all the way to the 100 gigabit Ethernet. And the glue in between all that is, of course, the Engage software, the Engage controller that we are going to demo, because when you are using it with the AV user interface on every device, you forget about the hardware platforms because all the features are the same, all the switches behave the same, and there's virtually zero difference between any of those switches. I won't be complete without saying that because we have our Engage 2.0 this year in 2025, we can not only support AV switchers, but we can also add some more NETGEAR products into the AV networks. The first one is the Pro router, the PR460X, a lovely, cost-effective small router that looks good in the rack. Actually, this is the same case as my M4250s. Maybe you can recognize that. And it's always good to have a router in Engage because you can host services in there for DHCP, for MAC reservations. You're going to see that. Also for the Bonjour gateway, so that you can replicate Bonjour in between the VLANs should you need. And Glenn, when you have a mobile crew that goes from one location to another, you're never really sure what internet you're going to get, what line you're going to get. But with such a router on the one port, you take what you get. And on the LAN side, everything is dynamic in Engage. There is zero configuration from one gig to another. And last but not the least, let me speak about Wi-Fi a little bit. Although, keep me honest, I'm a switch guy. But Engage 2.0 now supports the NETGEAR Wi-Fi 7 access points that you see on the bottom right. So the 2x2, the 718, and the 3x3, 758, those Wi-Fi 7 access points are great. Usually, NETGEAR uses the NETGEAR Inside Cloud for enterprise Wi-Fi deployments. But now we can onboard the Wi-Fi 7, the 718, 758 APs into a site in Engage so that we can do a little bit of Wi-Fi too, so that we can do a control for the touch panels. And you have, Glenn, I believe, also the very first Wi-Fi NDI endpoints, such as cameras. Yeah, see? So
just happen to have it sitting at my desk.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is, our first venture into the AV over Wi-Fi. But with NDI, we also have already some very good installations. One of them is the NASDAQ. Did you know they are doing NDI top to bottom? If you get interviewed, Glenn, at the NASDAQ, you'll see that this is on NETGEAR AV line for switchers and NETGEAR AV Wi-Fi access points, those ones, and everything over the air. You just don't want to put too many cameras on the access points. That's all for now.
No, I think that's a great thing too. And I know you're heading into Engage, so this is a great little segue. And you've been leaving me little pauses to interject, but I knew you wanted to get through these slides, so I've been holding it in. But Wi-Fi is one of those things, and I have a Netgear, Pro AV switch. I have one of the Netgear Wi-Fi access points, and that's always been an issue. Is I can't, I have to go to different screens, different panes of glass to control one over the other. So bringing that into Engage is great. And you're going to do your Engage demo now, and I want to talk to people about Engage, because for most people that are used to the Netgear, and I've got demos out there. Everybody's got demos of showing how easy it is to set up a single Netgear switch to do an AV over IP format. And a lot of people don't even think about Engage, because Engage really, it shines, and you're going to show 200 switches. You're going to show all these different things. That's where it shines. But, there's some simple things, and I know you're going to show one of my favorite things, which is DHCP reservations. There's some things that Engage brings you even to a single switch environment. And really, this is another area where Netgear got smart. Okay. In a switch, there's only so much you can do and control in a switch to be a switch. Netgear realized people want to do these other things, so that's kind of where I'm speaking out of term here, but that's kind of where Engage came from. Is it's a separate piece of software that allows you to set up and manage the switch in ways that you can't do from a switch firmware on its own. Did I do that justice?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and this is only the beginning, Glenn. This is only the beginning. Netgear is a public company. I cannot, tell you what's coming next. I mean, but you'll see under the Christmas tree and early next year at ISC in Barcelona, we have great things coming in Engage. So you're right. Everything we couldn't do on the switchers, we just do it in Engage moving forward. That's absolutely right. All right. So Engage. The demo, we are going to do it now. It's a software that runs on Windows or Mac. For now, stay tuned. We are going to do even better soon. But right now, this is a free of charge application that you just install on a PC like me, like Windows or a Mac. And this is a single pane of glass from now on for the AV switchers, for the routers, and for the access points, and all the great features that we have invented, because we learned so much about pain points in AV installations, misconfiguration, wrong cables, wrong links, when you are missing some VLAN tags in between switches. Engage does it for you with scale. And don't forget the support that you are entitled to. As soon as you are working with Broadfield, you are doing an AV project, and you are using Netgear AV for your fabric with the switchers or access points and routers, you get access for free to the Netgear Pro AV design team. 99.9% of the problems, the issues, the escalations that come to us are solved on the very same day. Okay.
And I have a great first off, the Pro AV service is phenomenal. That is, again, once you get into the Netgear Pro AV family, those folks are there to help you and support you. And they are worldwide. The story I always tell people is I had a Thanksgiving weekend where I decided to work with a customer and reconfigure a network. I started the call on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Obviously, the US team shut down, easily transitioned to the UK team. They took me through the whole thing, and we transitioned back to the US team on Friday. But again, it was great. Really super helpful folks. And again, it doesn't usually take that long. That was a long, detailed thing we were going through, but just how great and seamless that was is a great tout to how good those teams are.
Thank you, Glenn. And this is my last slide, and then we are going to switch to the Engage controller. But don't forget, you can get very good curriculum. And I know the Broadfield customers, especially when we are doing this NDI November week, you are very hungry for knowledge. So we spend a lot of time, everything we learn, because we stay hungry too. Everything we learn, we organize the Netgear Academy with it. Okay, so you can get CTS credits. It's not only for AV. You can get actually very good courses on IT too. But for the AV, you have level 1, level 2, AV switching, very good curriculums. But not only that, you have the partnerships that we have with many AV manufacturers. You will find their curriculums directly on the Netgear Academy. So academy.netgear.com. All right. So we are going now to switch to the Netgear Engage, Glenn. So it's not difficult. I'm running right now this on my Windows 11 PC, and it's a trauma for me. I was under Windows 10 until very recently, but my IT, they forced me to to change that, and now I need to learn everything again. So it's Windows 11, but I'm running the Netgear Engage 2.3.1.8. And it's a fantastic thing because this is the brand new release that will be available today, later today on the servers. So all the Windows, all the Engage platforms around the world will tell you, oh, there is an update available. Do you want to upgrade? So this is what I'm demoing, okay? It's going to be live in approximately 5 hours from now. And on Engage, we manipulate the sites. It's like when you have Microsoft Excel, you have several workbooks. So with Engage, you have several sites. So on my Engage here, on my computer, I have only one site, but I could obviously create additional sites, and I can export, import, and I can exchange sites with you, Glenn, for instance. All right. So I'm using one site called the EMEA Site Lab here because I'm in France, and you can go from one site to the other using the little drop down. On Engage, what is happening is that as soon as you plug a Netgear AV line switcher or a Wi-Fi access point, Wi-Fi 7 that's compatible, or a router, you're going to discover it. You will onboard this equipment. And when you are onboarding it, all of a sudden, in Engage, you have those devices, in your device list. And we spoke about the Netgear AV user interface. If I go to one of those switches and if I click Configure, then I have the AV UI of that switch. The same thing that I get if I go to a browser and enter the IP address of that switch, all right? So it means that I can still, do a few things here and there if I need to, but obviously this is not how we want to use Engage. We don't want to configure the switches one by one, okay? What we want to do is really much do the AV network globally. So when the switches are in, you have the topology, you have a lot of different small views, different types of views, but personally, I like the physical view that I set default because the physical view tells me which ports, Glenn, are used in between the switches, and this is actually pretty good to know. So with the Netgear Engage, you don't configure, the link aggregations or the VLAN tagging, as I said, because as soon as you connect a link in between the switches, everything is automatic for you. You can put up to 8 links in between switches, as many VLANs and profiles you want. Everything will be dynamically shared across the switches. Enough talking. Let me show you, Glenn, where we want to configure everything. This is under the site settings. So again, you have a bunch of switches. So I have more than 250 ports combined across the board here. But under the site settings, we at first have a default unique VLAN, out of the box called the VLAN 1. All right. And together, we are going to build on that and set up a brand new NDI network together, all right? But first thing first, in order to have a good AV network, you want good foundations. And the good foundations in a network is what we call the management VLAN, all right? So you can move your management VLAN from VLAN 1 to something else if you don't like it. But the management VLAN must be rock solid. So the first thing to do is, for instance, to put a static IP address on the interface of the management VLAN 1 on the switches so that nothing can happen. Maybe you can lose your DHCP server, whatever. Personally, I like to set my static IPs for my management VLAN. When it's done, you can go back to the profiles and start working on the VLAN 1 because this VLAN 1 is available for you to do AV2. So personally, what I am doing on the VLAN 1, this is my comms. I edit the VLAN 1 and I'm selecting a profile that is in Engage that is called AES67. Okay, so that's the SMPTE ST2110-30 AES67, where the models that can do boundary clock do it. But this is also for the edge when you have other 4250 switches that can do that. And then we are going to automatically do transparent clock, so BC and TC dynamically in your VLAN, in the VLAN 1, so that we can do all the communications. And as you know, without comms, we cannot really have a show, right? So this is what I'm doing with the VLAN 1. I'm doing my comms and I let it this way. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to show you that I already have another VLAN called the VLAN 10. Let's review that super fast. I'm using a template called lighting. So SACN, ArtNet, and MANNet, in particular the MANNet 3. All those protocols and codecs are supported. So this is for the fixtures, you know, all the lighting equipment. Next, I said I want a VLAN 10 with the yellow color for lights, you know. And for the Wi-Fi, you can actually say, yeah, I want to do Wi-Fi on that VLAN 10. I want to place some Wi-Fi devices on the global site SSID. And I created a shared multiple PSK, so a group with a password called remotes123%, so that when the devices connect to the global site, they will land in VLAN 10. And I isolate this group from other Wi-Fi groups so that they don't get burdened by MDNS, whatever. All right. And then in Engage, you have your topology. So when you are finalizing your VLAN 10 for the lighting, you see your topology. Usually we don't configure anything at the core. This is the center, this is the fiber switch, you know, so you don't connect anything directly to it. So you let it alone. But on the switchers, we actually tell which ports we want for the yellow VLAN 10, right? So right now I'm using the 8 first ports, but you know what? Let's unselect some ports, okay? And just keep 1, 2, 3, 4 for the first switch. A little bit like Excel, you can actually take this port count and select all the other switches so that you can go fast. You know, I like symmetry personally. So I'm going to do my lighting on the left on the first 4 ports. Okay, so now I have some more space for my NDI. So you click apply and boom, you know, all the devices are now configured and ready to accept your lighting equipment on the first 4 ports across the network. I'm going to save. All the configuration has been sent to the switches, right? So Engage can be shut down, actually, all right? So all the switches have the config now. And if you agree, Glenn, we are going to set up a new profile together because we want to have an NDI installation, okay, together. So we are going to add a new profile. We are going to select a template. And for NDI, well, between you and me, you can use many profiles and make NDI work just fine, okay? But for the sake of the demonstration, I am going to use the profile called NDI 5/6 with Dante Q6 or AES67. So this is a very much all-round NDI profile, okay? And usually very successful. We are going to call it the NDI week profile. Let's set up a VLAN ID, a new one, the VLAN 20. We are more than optimistic. We are going to select the green color. And by the way, the latest generation of the 4350s that were introduced in June, they have an external RGB light, you know, physically under the ports. So when you do green on the screen, then the switches will show you the green color, you know, on those ports. So that's pretty cool.
And what's cool about it, and at first I was kind of like, oh, that's gimmicky, but once I started thinking about it, the cool thing is you're setting it up. You can then go tell somebody, okay, go plug this cable into any of the green ports, and you know you're good. Yeah. And it is actually a very neat feature.
Yeah. So we are going to create multiple PSK, a group, all right, for the NDI cameras, because we want to do some NDI. I saw you got one. So let's say a NDI Wi-Fi 123%, so that I'm meeting the requirements. I think you need to have 8 characters and some specials. And I am going to isolate those cameras. It's very important. It's not, I mean, the cameras will be in the VLAN 20, right? Everybody will access them and the cameras will access the whole VLAN 20. But I am isolating that group from other groups on the Wi-Fi networks so that if needed, my cameras won't get hurt, you know, by some other traffic. And it's a very good feature, especially for the touch panels, so that they can go sleep mode, you know, because if not, they cannot sleep and the battery is drained. All right. So I'm adding this group for the cameras. Next, we are going to do the layer 2. So the layer 2 is the ports, right? Which ports? So let's start with the first switch up there. We have the blue, that's the VLAN 1. We have the yellow, this is the VLAN 10 for lighting. Let's select ports after the port 4. Let's select 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 6 ports on that switch. And because we want to go fast, we are going to copy paste that port count everywhere but at the core on all other switches. All right, so that all other switches, they have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I do that because I know that I have room, okay, on all the switches. And you have your information right there. All right, so I'm happy with that. I will apply and I will say, yes, I want to create the VLAN 20 that way. And now, Glenn, I know you are interested in that because when I do a VLAN, it's layer 2. So I only have ports in a layer 2 VLAN. But now we want to go layer 3. Of course, I could stop there. Okay, I could say, no, I don't do layer 3. But if I don't do layer 3, then all my cameras are going to have those, you know, link local 169.254 addresses, and then you cannot route. You can go across the VLANs for control, and you know, it's very messy. I don't know what you think. So personally, I like DHCP because this way I have proper IP addresses. So now that the layer 2 is done, we go layer 3, and we are going to have the topology again. And this time we are going to select the core switch. So this is my center of the network. I will say, you know what? This is going to be my core, this one. I want to do the DHCP server there, the routing, the query, everything. And we are going to now, go up and say that we want to do routing on the other switches so that the VLAN 20 will have a routing interface on every switch, right? So this is how we can actually prepare, help Engage set the stage. So now the VLAN 20 and the VLAN routing and the DHCP server is provisioned. I already have my checkbox here for DHCP server for the core switch. Of course, we need a static IP address, right, on that core switch. So let's do a 192.168.20.1. Always select 1 for the core switch, .1. Why? Because this way the query election will make that switch win, okay? You want to facilitate that because that's your most high performance switch, usually the core switch. And to go fast, I will set DHCP client for all the other switches on the network. So all the other switches will get a DHCP address, all right, for now. And then on Engage, you have that ready here. The router for the clients will be the 20.1. I will start my pool at 100, and I will finish it at 200. I will say that my search noben is Netgear, whatever. If I want to have some DNSs, because I want to do internet, I need to enter that here, but we can actually ask Engage to do it automatically. We'll do it later. So to recap, .1, 20.1 on the core switch, everybody else DHCP client, and my DHCP server starting at 100, finish up at 200, all right? You click apply, you say yes, and this time all that layer 3 configuration has been sent. As I speak, it's being sent to the network, all right? So we are going to save it, and all the switches now are configured. So, recapitulating, we have now a green VLAN 20 for NDI, Dante Q6 and AES67, all right? If I go to one of those devices, one of them, if I click the configure button, I should see it, see? I should see 6 ports that are green, ready to go, all right? And because this is an access switch, I do not do my DHCP server here. I'm doing my DHCP server on the core switch. So the last piece of the demo, and I know, Glenn, you're like me, the one bad thing about DHCP is that it's a little random, the DHCP addresses. And when you do NDI, especially with the cameras for the PTZ, you need to have the same IP addresses all the time because it's fixed, right? The way you configure the buttons and the joysticks. So I'm not an AV pro, but I learned that. So in my VLAN 20, I am going to do something that only Engage can do because the switches can do that very well. I am going to configure the DHCP addresses. So see how we want to simplify the experience of, you know, the AV over IP networking. We make it very easy. You go to your VLAN wiring section. This is where we just did that. You go under DHCP address reservation. And here for the VLAN 20, but you can do that on the other VLANs too, of course, I am going to add some statics. So if you already have your cameras plugged in, you will see them here. Right now, I do not have any camera plugged in, but I have my other switches, VLAN 20 interfaces plugged in, right? So that's why I see some of those already. And I can actually then statically, if you wish, fix or stabilize the IP address. But usually this is not how I do. You can do another way, you can do your manual way, but I have much better for you. You can actually, instead of that, import a file, you know, and browse for on your computer. So if you do an Excel file that you save as a .csv with your camera max and your camera desired IP in that subnet, then you can upload right there, and then you can have all your reservations in Engage. And one switch, because right now I'm doing my DHCP server on the core switch, can have something like 250 of them, okay? But if you move the DHCP server to the router, then you're no limit. You can do dozens of thousands of them, okay? All right.
And this is a great thing. And this was, you know, one of the things I like to talk about because so many people in the NDI world, but so many people in the networking world too, just love fixed IPs. And it's great. And I'm one of those. I like to look at a device and say, oh, that's 192.168.100.15. I know what that is. You know, but, you know, first off, NDI prefers to have DHCP. It prefers to have something that manages the traffic to it. The other thing too is if you put fixed IP addresses on a device, because you can physically go into any device and have a fixed IP address, that's great until you take it somewhere else. And then you got to remember, oh, I've got to get into it. So, you know, doing DHCP reservations gives you that best of both worlds is I will always know what the IP address of that camera is.
Yeah.
And I can move it to another area without having to reset it. You know, you went into a lot of detail and a lot of stuff, and you know, for people that know networking, this is great. For people that don't know networking, you're saying layer 2, layer 3. Oh my God, my head's going to explode. The thing I want to bring them back to is what's beautiful about the NETGEAR Engage and the NETGEAR switches is if you don't know what that means, it doesn't matter. It's very visual. It's very easy. You don't know that you just configured something on a layer 3. All you know is you just assigned everybody a DHCP address. And that's again what makes the NETGEAR Pro AV platform, the AVOS and Engage so very powerful is if you know what you're doing, because you're an IT professional, you can do a lot of things. If you don't know what you're doing, you can do a lot of things and not hurt yourself. But, you know, to recap too, what you just did, which is mind-blowing, is not everybody has, you know, 10, 20 NETGEAR switches at their disposal. Most people might have a few, but the beauty is instead of having to go into this web GUI and then this window and having to have 3 web pages open up for my 3 different switches and saying, okay, this one's going to be this, within one click or a couple of clicks, you said, okay, great. All of my Netgear switches, all of my Pro AV switches, I now have half my ports or 4 of my ports being NDI and the other 4 being this. That's beautiful. That's fast. That's time saving, and it's going to allow anybody that's managing these systems to focus more on other things, more on the creative end, more on all these other things, as opposed to having to go to all these different pages and do it. And that's really powerful. It's a very cool demo.
Well, thank you, Glenn. And if I may, I can actually give you another reason why you want to go DHCP with static MAC reservations instead of fixed static IPs, because it's prone to mistakes all the time. And I cannot tell you how many times we are contacted by at the Netgear Pro AV design team, like, hey, my controller or my production server or my vMix or whatever doesn't see the device, or he can see it, but I cannot manage it, cannot connect to it. And very often the first reaction we have is like, can you disconnect that device? Oh, done. Can you ping it? And guess what? You have some, because you have duplicates, and it's always. So static IPs, this is the best enemy. And a DHCP organization with the DHCP server and static MAC reservations, that's the way to go. Much better. Although, personally, my only exception is my VLAN 1, my management VLAN. I like it to be static. Yeah.
Well, and that's important because you always need to be able to know that I can get to that's the one thing you need to always know and guarantee how to get to, and that it's never it's not gonna change, and that it's standing on its own. It's the key to your front door, basically.
Right. Oh, we spoke about the inter-VLAN for internet, right? And I forgot that. Allow me, because I don't happen to. I don't happen to have my big rack, as I told you before. But see, when I go to one of those profiles in the VLAN wiring section, if I have the router, maybe I went too fast from one page to the other. when I go in one of those broadcast domains, but for NDI, this is my VLAN 20, see that little button? You have the internet access off, on, slider. Yep. And when you have the Netgear PR460X router, member of that site, this is how you can actually very, very easily action that. And wherever you are, even if you are at a venue and your router got to one port, all the NAT, all the static routes, everything is totally automated. And you get internet for your vMix, you get internet for your streaming, you get internet when you want, where you want. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'd rather talk cameras, I'd rather talk switchers, I'd rather talk a lot of things sometimes, but the fact is that, the network is the backbone to everything that we were doing, and it's Netgear powers it all. And we didn't even talk about PoE requirements. We didn't talk about any of that other stuff, but it is my favorite problem solver. I thank Netgear for doing this and dedicating their time. I thank you for coming to our show. Very excited. I can't wait for the next few hours. I can download the latest Engage and all the other good stuff coming. So thank you again, Glenn from Broadfield. That's it for me. You got any last words?
Yeah, no, thank you, Glenn. And I wish you all, Broadfield, a very successful and happy NDI month. And we at Netgear are all fans. Actually, I can speak on behalf of the Netgear AV group, from system engineering to engineers to business people that are listening to us. So keep going. You are doing a wonderful job. And it's not only in the US that you are famous. It's all over the world. I'm traveling the world in Asia and everywhere. And NDI, the NDI month, the NDI November is always visible everywhere. So continue, because you are the only ones doing it, and you are doing it right.
Thank you.